Good morning, viewers. Welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. Today is an important day because Mr. Modi's 5-year test match, to use the cricket analogy, has just begun. The team has been placed and Mr. Modi already started by making runs. What has he done? He provided much needed support to agriculture farmers, the poor farmers. He has provided for a pension scheme for the small traders, and thus made a beginning in a cabinet decision that was implemented right away. The team has been put in place. We have Mr. Jaishankar, a former foreign secretary, who is a full-fledged foreign minister. And Mrs. Nirmala Sitharaman has moved from defense, where she did an exemplary work, to finance. And Mr. Amit Shah is the new home minister. Mr. Rajnath Singh moves over to defense ministry. These four people plus the prime minister make the core of the team, the topmost team that will take future decisions as we go along. There are a lot of things to be happening. India is in the forefront right now. Everybody is looking at India. In a master stroke of diplomacy, Mr. Modi did not invite Imran Khan for the inaugural, but he formed a group called BIMSTEC, which is Bay of Bengal Initiative, and the neighbors. It is very important to note that Pakistan was not invited for the inaugural. And I suspect there was a very important message to be conveyed, that you can't be our friend when you are continuously allowing your soil to be used for infamous attacks that happen and leads to death of the people in the country. And I'm sure Mr. Modi is taking Pakistan seriously, and thus he will engage with Pakistan on a one-on-one basis rather than letting Pakistan Prime Minister have a field day in a public show where not much can be accomplished in terms of bilateral relations. So to discuss this matter, and we will also switch over to your and my issues, because politics has been enough. Now we have to focus on you and I, whether we work in a company or individual. So we have today with us Mr. Raju Ramanathan. He is a very famous person. He has written a book called Souls and Mercury, and he will explain about what this is all about. He is a very famous meditation practitioner, and he is using this meditation technique and practices to improve and change the corporate cultures all over the world. Mr. Ramanathan, welcome to Frankly Speaking with Vibhuti Jha. Now, beginning this stroke here, you're welcome, sir. What I wanted to ask you is that please do share your thoughts. You belong to Tamil Nadu.
Yes.
You have a very strong family connections with Tamil Nadu and in the family Tamil heritage.
Yes.
And you are in Canada. Tamil Nadu elected DMK all the way. It is always a very different state in its own way.
Yes.
But it's definitely India. I would never say that it is not India just because a Stalin says something or the other. Because I spent time in Chennai, a lot of time in Chennai, during my RBI days when I used to go for training. So I know Chennai very well. So share your thoughts about how Mr. Modi will accomplish, knowing him for the last 5 years that he has done. And I made the analogy of a 5-year test match. So how do you think Mr. Modi is going to do, and what is he going to do differently from the previous term?
I do not think Modi will change his general approach. Mr. Modi has been always a person, how I would characterize him. He always keeps his head cool, heart warm, and his hands busy. So that approach will continue. But how he is going to deal with certain groups, certain different parties, that is bound to change because of the nature of other parties coming in different provinces. Mm-hmm. So the way he talks about people, he always respects everyone. But where he is not needed to put his attention, he just stays away. If you notice very carefully, he has not been interfering in the politics in Tamil Nadu. He has been keeping his hands off. But it is still, he's watching over it, see what needs to happen there. and supporting that is overall policies for India is still being implemented in that province. He has made sure that regardless of who was in power, whether it's Jayalalitha or Stalin, it does not matter who is leading at the helm of affairs. He will make sure in the same way that the overall policies are being implemented at grassroots level. That's my opinion, sir.
No, that's
With a minor change.
That's truly remarkable, because in the previous regime, what had happened was that if the state government was not Congress party, they used to be harassed.
Correct.
Here, that was one of the very important complaints
Right.
that the southern India used to have against so-called Delhi rule.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
Whether it is imposition of Hindi or whatever the language issues, but they always used to feel neglected.
Yes.
Fairly or unfairly, we are not going to sit on judgment on that.
Right.
But what you said is remarkably critical, because many people from the media,
Yes.
and they are on YouTube and they are all over the place, admitting
Yes.
their culpability
Yes.
in not reporting what Modi was doing for the poor and the villages.
Yes.
I mean, of all the people, one Shekhar Gupta, who was a staunch opponent of Mr. Modi, recently put forth a YouTube video in which he was talking about the fact that he had gone to tour the villages to see the pulse of the people.
Yes.
And he was really impressed to see that it's not that there is a gas cylinder there, but there is money to buy the next gas cylinder.
Yes.
They realized that government did not build the toilets. Government gave them money to build the toilets. And he admits it. It just happened just a day ago.
Okay.
So when he begins, people have begun to realize that even whether it's cutting, that's what I call Mr. Modi's victory as a Sanatan victory, because it cut across, he got votes, and the vote share went up dramatically higher from 2014 because he did things that he promised to deliver to the
Yes.
poor and everybody else.
Yes.
So now with reference to Tamil politics, it bothers me at times because,
Right.
people like Stalin, I don't know how he was named Stalin, whether he adopted that name or his parents named him Stalin, but it's not a historically very good name, by the way.
Yes, yes.
But when Stalin made a noise that, he will be willing to support for Southern Federation, how do you think Mr. Modi will handle that, in addition to the fact, given the fact actually, that Mr. Modi will continue to implement the plan? And that was very touching also,
Yes.
because of Nitin Gadkari, who is the Minister for Ground Transport, and when he was asked about what will you do in Tamil Nadu, he said, I'm going to provide the linkages of Godavari and Kaveri so that solve the people of
Yes.
the water problem of Tamil Nadu. That is the first political statement that he made soon after election.
Yes.
So the Dil, as you said, Prime Minister is driving the heart and the minds of
Yes.
people within his party.
Right.
That the first statement that came, it was not politics.
Yes.
It was coming from the heart.
And you, being an engineer, I can tell you the history of that as well. That issue. There was a person, Vishweshwaraya, a great engineer from Karnataka, and he proposed that to solve the problems of farmers and to prevent floods. In India, we have floods in one area, we have drought in another area. We need to connect majority of rivers together and bring that biggest infrastructure change in India. And Visvesvaraya's work was not followed up.
Who did not follow? It was definitely the
previous
Congress
governments.
people.
Previous government.
Yeah, that is something which
He
I
was a statesman, he was the greatest engineer
Right.
that ever lived in India,
Right.
and who came to light. He was like #1 chief engineer of Karnataka.
He was chief engineer of
Karnataka.
Yeah, okay. I know Vishwesvaraya Institute
Yes.
of Technology
Yes.
and all these things
All
are
the-
there in
that's his
Bangalore. I
name.
lived in Bangalore
It's
for
his
5
name.
years. Yeah, so it was his
Yes,
technology.
exactly. I lived in Bangalore too for 5 years, so I know all this history. When I hear this, I keep wondering, what is this government doing? What are the hurdles? Have they at least done a study, a feasibility study? We call them a feasibility study technically. Even that has not been initiated in the last 50 years.
Right.
So I'm sure Modi will start such a study and see its merits and demerits and act accordingly.
No, the very fact that the Transport and Irrigation Minister
Yes.
makes the statement, I am sure there will be work with reference to that, because it is important, because Subramaniam Swamy,
Yes.
another person from Tamil Nadu.
Yes, I know him well.
You know him well.
I actually met him in Toronto last year.
Okay. Now, I have had a good interview with him
Yes,
as well.
yes.
But one of the things which he said in one of the programs where I was, the host for that, he made a statement that there is actually no water problem for Tamil Nadu.
Yes.
We have sophisticated Israeli water technologies for, desalination,
Yes.
that Tamil Nadu can have as much water as it wants.
Yes.
All that is required is to shun the politics
Yes.
and actually address the problem.
Yes.
And that's what you are saying.
Correct.
Now,
Correct.
shifting gears from Tamil Nadu now.
Okay.
Now let's talk about India as a whole.
As a whole, yes.
The country has been through a remarkable 5 years of Mr. Modi's rule, uninterrupted. He got for whatever he did, everything that for what he did, he got more seats, more vote share, and the NDA is larger than ever before. And no opposition party has even 52 seats to be called an
opposition party.
leader. Nobody can be called leader of opposition.
Yes.
So the scenario here is that now he has a massive mandate.
Yes.
I would like to hear from you, with your engineering mind and the philosophy of that we have talked about, is what are the two things in your mind that comes to you that he must instantly do, and two things that he should not fall into the trap of? Politicians, I always say that
Yes.
the smartest of people make the dumbest of mistakes. So the point which I'm trying to say is that what do you think are the two key things, according to you, living abroad as an NRI,
Yes, yes.
and he respects NRI's
Yes.
points of view, he listens to us. So what are the two things that you think that he should do in the first 90 days,
Okay.
and two things that he must avoid
Okay.
as we speak?
Yes. The one is to continue to promote India as under the banner of this is exactly what he himself quoted during his last Independence Day speech. Mr. Modi was quoting from the most illustrious poet of South India, Subramaniam Bharati. He quoted, "Ellorum or kulam, ellorum orinam, ellorum innattu makkal." Naam ellorum innattu makkal. We are from one tribe. We are from one caste, really speaking, and we are we are like the kings of this country. We are the citizens of one country with one thought, in unison, moving together. This was the vision given by Subramaniam Bharati in the year 1935. This was quoted in the Independence Day speech, and he went further along to say another line from Subramaniam Bharati. They're saying India will give this knowledge, such an awareness, a new emerging awareness, living in awareness to the whole world. Bharati said that. There is a Satya Yuga we talk about in India, Rama,
Right.
Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga. Let us come to that. I believe that for India to kickstart the Satya Yuga has started with Narendra Modi ji. So, what is the Satya Yuga? Satya Yuga means the age of truth. It's not only the age of truth, it's also the age of awareness, where people are aware of their actions, they're aware of their thoughts and feelings, and they are willing to change according to the times and to the needs of the times as well. We are not fixated in certain mold, our own old identities, what we consider ourselves to be. So, but the way Modi will now come across, you will see a different part of Modi ji, which he should continue to do, is to bring people of all cultures, all religions together, and put that to bed, that he is not a Hindu nationalist.
No, but the fact that he is, that is your first thing that he should do.
Clear the air, because that was done during the electoral campaigns, it was misrepresented.
The second one.
Okay. Number one. So
Yes.
The second one is get in touch with the technocrats of India. I'm not just talking the real technocrats, regardless of which party they belong to. Put a think tank together and see what India needs. It's such technology which will also address the needs of the common man, like the guy doing his farming, and a person doing his small trades. all of them, how they will benefit, what technology do we really need to put in place. This has to be analyzed immediately.
Need-based technology, not just because
need-based technology,
not because it's
not
a
any
foreign
technology.
Yeah.
Whether we see 3G or 4G or 5G doesn't matter for India.
Right.
What we need is need-based technology, number one. So for that, we need a think tank to be created. For example, I give you the name of one of my very personal friends. I don't mind mentioning his name now. So these kind of people, he helped even in Rajiv Gandhi's time to bring cell phone to India.
Right.
Sam Pitroda, he's my very personal friend. People like him, regardless of what party they supported, bring them all together, back again to the table. See, what does India need today? The real needs of the common man. And assess that movement and do all the two things are needed: infrastructure changes and infrastructure improvements. Other one is the grassroots thinking and the high technology as well, because high technology and low technology always supplement each other, complement each other.
That's right. No, that's a very, very important point, because remember one thing, everything has to meet the relevance to the need of the moment. Now, if you were to give me how to fly a plane, it is not going to happen.
Yes.
So I don't need to know how to fly a plane. That technology is not for me. It's meant for the pilots. So you have to create the relevance of technology,
Yes.
what is applicable
Yes.
into the societies that we live in.
Yes.
Because there is no point in having technology just because it's modern and new. However, at the same time, I personally believe that India is at the cusp of, has been at the cusp of technology revolution. That if we miss that technology revolution,
we would have missed the boat.
Adaptation, we will miss it for a very long time.
Yes.
So Mr. Modi has a vision, and we will talk about that right after this short break. Welcome back. In the next few minutes, we'll talk about the composition of his Council of Ministers, which has been at the state level, he has reduced the number from 34 to 23. His cabinet minister is one less, and he has created a professionalization, and a lot of people have come from outside. Mr. Modi is going to be, he's a karma yogi, as I have often said, and thus he will implement a performance-based culture in India. This will be the first time in the UPSC examinations, 10% reserved for economically backward classes, economically backward poverty class people, 10% will be going to them. That's a major significant shift that has happened. So in the composition of the cabinet, the roles that he has assigned to people, he has been very selective about that. There is no flamboyance, and everybody has been given a task. So he is going to introduce the concept of accountability and responsibility. The people who were seemingly more flamboyant but did not perform have been dropped. The question here is again, how will this entire Indian culture accept a performance-based culture? Because we have been given to live in government does everything. So in this particular case, Make in India, skill development initiatives, he is trying to make a difference. He said, job doesn't mean you don't have an occupation. You don't need to be a job holder of XYZ, but go and do something. Whether it's making samosas or chai, it doesn't matter, but do something. That is the thought process that he's introducing in the youth of the country, which is key. Employment generation and job creation, they are two different things. Employment creation and job creation are two different things, and Mr. Modi is focusing on that with his Make in India initiative and the entrepreneurship development that he is trying to promote in the country. And I think that will bode well for the country.
Yes. Taking from that theme, there has to be, when you use the word accountability or responsibility, I want to also tell you, every government what the government should do for the people and what the people should do for the government. There is a responsibility on both sides. If the Praja, if the Janata keeps thinking that Mr. Modi will do everything. We are going to remain the same like the way we have been for the last 50 to 100 years.
Right.
India cannot change. So the change has to happen equally from the mass consciousness of the people, and as well as their own ownership. I personally believed, like Gandhiji did in those days, he talked about it, that the villages have to be owned by one intelligent man. When I say own, taking ownership to make it work. One young man who is a true leader, rather than he should become a self-appointed leader and bring the village together, look at what projects are required, take the initiative for those projects to happen, and without expecting any results. We need karma yogis like that. There are people available in India,
Right.
and these such people should be found and recognized who are willing to own a small village. When I say own, with no title, this is a new concept Gandhiji talked about. It's about time. I personally believe if I meet him today, some initiative has to be brought in this direction.
Now that's very, very remarkable because, Gandhiji has his own critics
Yes.
for political purposes, but
Yes.
as a man you can't criticize him. So think about his vision, which Raju was talking about just a minute ago, was the fact that he called upon the Congress party soon after we got independence, go to villages.
Yes.
Leave the political power to others.
Yes.
But you guys go down to the villages
Yes.
and solve the problem of the village. But the Congress party was so stuck up
Yes, correct,
and
correct.
hung over
Yes.
for power
Yes.
that we have struggled so much to fight for freedom. We must enjoy the power
Yes.
that they forgot the essence of Gandhi's policies.
So we need self-appointed leaders in the villages.
Mm-hmm.
And such people are available today, not that they are not available. We need to create maybe a small university where this can be cultured. In fact, we have a place like that in near Pune, Katarkadak, where we are bringing leaders for the future. There are 100 students being trained in the ideas of new leadership. This 100 students.
This
will
is
be
in
willing.
Pune?
In Pune.
Where exactly? I lived in Pune for many years.
It's in a mountain called Katarkadak, outside of Pune.
Okay. Towards Lonavala side?
Yeah,
okay.
on the way to Lonavala.
On the way to Lonavala.
Yes.
Okay, I know the place.
So the Katarkadak, we got a new youth leadership program being run now.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Brilliant.
And these are the would-be future leaders. These are people who have been brought in a new vision of their own life, in a new vision of India, where they are willing to go and own up a village.
That's brilliant because what is important here is rebuilding the culture, the traditions of India the way it is. What happened, and that's I'm taking a cue from a movie called Batman, in which they say every hero needs a villain.
Yes.
And every villain needs a hero. Otherwise, you can't exist. In this situation, people of India have chosen their hero.
Yes.
That is Narendra Modi and his team. The question is, where is the villain? Because the Congress party is decimated. In the previous program, I had said that the Congress party lost sight of their historical role of being the freedom fighter movement to becoming a family limited partnership.
Yes.
And as a result of which we see the decline happen in the
Yes.
third or fourth generation onwards.
Right.
It's a classic corporate situation.
Yes.
As a result of which, Congress party completely disowned its years and years of ground infrastructure that they had built during independence time.
Yes.
So do you think that will ever happen? Or is it gone? Or is like say that creative destruction, they are going to merge with Pawar's party to have the 54 requisite seats to be called the leader of opposition, and that leader of opposition will be Sharad Pawar. So that man always plays politics of his own kind, and the human mind is full of its own calculations. Given that scenario, how do you think the leaders of the opposition must behave? Because several of them did not come for the inaugural. That was not a good thing to do. What do you say?
I always feel that whether in corporate or whether in the political world, the enemies are not your competitors. This is what I taught in all the corporate worlds where I have worked, and I have done a cultural transformation of that 14 billion empire in the USA. And it's not the titles that matter. The real enemies are only within ourselves. Until these are conquered, Our own kama, krodha, lobha, moha, mada, matsarya,
Right.
the jealousy, our own greed. And unless people are willing to look at themselves, yes, we are committed to bringing a Nav Bharat. We will work towards Nava Nirman or Jana Kalyan. These are the two words I give to you and to the listeners as well. Nava Nirman, Jana Kalyan. If you have people who are committed to this and wanting to take responsibility, then there are no enemies outside. Their voice will be only feeble. It cannot make any difference. It comes and goes. We are not the people who are working towards the goal, truly, like the Mahabharata war, like the Arjuna. Arjuna is being an instrument of God. If we are willing to be instruments of God, we can bring the Satya Yuga. We are responsible for it. No avatar is going to do it for us. We have to become, taking the responsibility that we will create the new India and the remarkable India.
That brings me to the second part of the conversation, which always, it's a brilliant segue to my thought process is that, you are talking about Sanatan practices.
Sanatan practice.
Eternal
exactly.
principles, right?
It is. And then every religion has Sanatan principles, by the way. Please.
However, that I agree. I mean, if you read the religious texts or the books, they say the same stories in a different language or a context.
Here is an example.
Yeah.
From the Bible, I am teaching the Western audience, the American audience, look into your Bible. There is how much you can learn to build a new America and a whole new world.
Brilliant. So whether it's Bible or
Yes.
Bhagavad Gita or Ramayana or any text you take, the stories are the same. Help the poor.
Right.
Be good to people. Don't impose yourself. However, the practice of that becomes a challenge. And that is important for us to discuss.
Mm-hmm.
That's very important for us to discuss because Christians, I find that they are willing to listen to the change because majority of the scientific and discoveries and research has happened here.
Right.
So the lot of blank spaces have disappeared. Lot of dark ignorance is gone. So for example, we know historically that there was a time when women were held responsible for delivering a male child or a female child. Now we know because of scientific advances that it's men who are responsible for the gender determination of a child. Likewise, we know that lightning and thunder doesn't happen because gods are angry. It's a natural phenomenon, right? God doesn't, or if there is a tsunami or a nor'easter, it's not because God willed it, it's a geographical phenomenon. So the question here is that with these realizations, yet Christians have a very hardened belief that Jesus is the only way. Or Islamic people have a belief Allah is supreme. I tell these people when I have friends in both faiths and I tell them, I have no problem in you believing that Jesus is the only way. Don't tell me that I'm doing anything wrong. Don't look down upon my practices as being inferior or wrong, or likewise to Muslims. You pray 5 times or 59 times, it doesn't bother me. What bothers me is that when you begin to say that I am imperfect, I'm not Allah's child. You are the Allah's child. That's the conflict that happens. And to that end, I have a scenario in which, knowing the genome research that has happened, that we all humans are the same. Right? 99. The difference is that you have a goatee, I don't have a goatee, or I have kept the full beard, or you look different, you have naturally thin, I'm naturally fat. So the question here is, genetic part of it plays, but essentially, people are the same. Our bodily parts perform identical function. Right? That's the message, the Sanatan message. And again, using the word accountability and responsibility, because I'm very fond of these words. Everything that happens to us, we are responsible for it. So, what I don't like the word should. What must we do to spread the word? That's what Mr. Modi is trying to say. Because he coined the phrase of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam.
Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam,
He gave a modern definition of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam when he founded the Solar Alliance, in which he said, one sun, one earth, one grid. That's a great definition. The modern definition which people will say, that's true. There is one sun, there is one earth, and there is one grid that can link us all. So, Your thoughts?
We need to, taking from the same thing that you just said, we need to focus on our own inner development. I talked about the other enemies, the enemies within, and the first enemy is Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Vasudeva Kutumbakam, that concept is based upon another little concept not very well known. Let me tell you that, Paraspara Devo Bhava, which means seeing God within each other. When I do Namaste, for example, what am I saying? The light within me adores the light within you. They join together.
Right.
So the Paraspara Deva Bhava has to be manifested in India in one form or another, and we need to become an example of that culture to the rest of the world. We are the spiritual ambassadors of the world. We have always been.
Where and how did we lose it? Where and how did we lose it?
Because you really want to know?
Yes. I want, not only I want to know, I want the whole
Okay.
audience to know, I want the world to know, because I believe, personally
Yes.
I believe,
Yes.
you refer to a think tank, we Hindus,
Yes.
living in India and abroad,
Yes.
we need to come together
Yes.
with a think tank, not to tell others to convert to Hinduism,
Right, exactly,
but to
yeah.
accept certain principles.
Right.
That alone will be saving the world. And
Yes.
we will, my personal one is, you know what my personal one is? Which I have told to both my Christian and Muslim friends. Just use the word acceptance and respect in place of tolerance.
Yes.
Acceptance and respect for fellow human beings as you are,
Yes.
the way you are.
Yes.
See, we are all designed differently as a physical person, but we are all essentially humans.
Yes.
So what I'm saying, what I've told them is that we pray to hundreds of gods as you allege. We don't worship hundreds of gods. God is one.
Yes.
But there are avatars.
Yes.
And we show our affection and respect for those avatars. They all live in the same temple. But nobody says that Krishna was better than Ram or Ram was superior to Hanuman.
No,
But they're all part of the same psycho
Yes.
ecosystem.
Yes.
If you accepted everybody, this is the message we need to tell the world.
Yes.
Hold on to this one. We'll talk about that later,
Okay.
right after this short break. Welcome back. We are having I'm really enjoying this conversation with Raju. And I will say Raju to you because I
Yes.
think we are the same
That's
age
good.
group.
That's
So let's
good.
not say Raju ji and Vibhuti ji with respect. I will say Raju ji to others, but between
Yes.
you and I, we are
Yes.
friends. So it's really great because it's a wonderful coincidence that we are here today. This is the first time we met on the reference from a very dear friend of mine that I must have him in the studio to have this discussion. The important part here is that Raju is not only a spiritual person, but he's acting and doing things in that regard. That's what is important lesson for all of us, that how he defined his own path of coaching, teaching, meditation, mindfulness. And he wrote a book, Souls from Mercury. This, he will explain to you the meaning of why the name is here, but he's gifted me the book and I'm going to read it because I am a TM practitioner myself for the last 35 years. And I have had the blessings of certain gurus. I call them, I have received the Diksha from certain gurus. So talking about meditation, I must share this with you. That when I was working with Reserve Bank of India, I was a probationary officer in Reserve Bank in Bangalore. In 1983 October, or was it September, there was a very famous management consultant who gave talk to the Bankers Club. We had a Bankers Club, RBI was the leader of the Bankers Club, in which he said something remarkably profound, which registered with me, but never paid attention to that. And the words were, and he was a Tamilian, the words were that the West, the America, are realizing the value and importance of meditation, yoga. 1983, September, October, he said that in Bangalore. And he said, this will catch up. It will become a movement, late 90s or early 2000s. How prophetic was that statement?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
How prophetic was that statement that today, like Kung Fu and Karate are Chinese items, yoga and meditation is India's gift to the world.
Yes.
Now, what does meditation do? I learned meditation, and I'll tell you in one line when people ask me, why do you meditate? I said it allows me to retain my sanity in an otherwise insane world. By the way, that's my phrase. Those are my words. I haven't copied it, but I'm going to have a copyright on that word. So it keeps my sanity intact in an otherwise insane world. Now, you have been doing this corporate work for a long time.
Yes.
Now, one thing which I do know, and I'm sure you are aware of, that Maharishi Mahesh Yogi made TM accepted in America because he allowed the Department of Health, US Department of Health, to do scientific investigation of the impact of meditation it has on blood pressure, cholesterol, and stress.
Exactly.
And how it frees up your mind to be better. Because life is all about your response. The other part which I learned through meditation was that I'm responsible for my reaction or response to life coming at me. So if somebody calls me stupid, my response will now determine the future course of discussion on that. Right?
Exactly.
So I begin to have a better response to life coming at me. So share with us something about your book, Souls from Mercury, and I believe you are having a book show in Jacob Javits Center.
Jacob Javits Center.
Brilliant. I'm glad.
And
tell us something about the book, and tell us something about the work, because you alluded to a think tank. I used to be part of a think tank, and people do accept. So the point which I'm trying to make is, tell us more.
The Souls from Mercury. Let me take that name first. There was a famous book. One of my fellow meditation teachers from Maharishi, his name is John Gray. He wrote a book called Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. Very well-known book because many psychologists have been referring to this book and teaching their clients. So I kind of threw a challenge at him by saying that, you see, you are focusing on the differences between two groups of people. Number two, you are labeling them as well. In fact, what should happen is you and I should find out what is common between you and me. Then we can have a much long-lasting relationship, not something that is patched up, because you know how you are different. That's only a patched up relationship. Today I look okay, I try to adjust myself, I look good, but from within, I do not still accept you. So I think of from between Mars and Venus. Mars is more aggressive, competitive, and Venus is more laid back, passive. There is right in between, there is a Mercury space. I bring in Mercury because Mercury stands for the balance, Mercury stands for wisdom, knowledge, and everything else as well. The true knowledge coming from within, that's Mercury. So true awareness also, our own inner awareness comes from Mercury to us. Buddha. So I'm calling this, we need to create a lot of souls from Mercury around the world who will own up and create a new culture, not rather than living in a reactionary world where from morning till evening all that I do is react, and react. I cannot create a new civilization this way. I have to learn how to be in a space where I go within myself, I become independent. Maharishi called it field independence. I become independent of what is going on in this world, and I'm able to create my own original thoughts, original feelings, that I want to blossom these thoughts. I want to materialize these things happening in the outer world, like a flower becoming a fruit. So it has to blossom from within me. That is the Souls from Mercury. And that happens through the processes that we have developed in India through the chakras. Our yogis talked about the chakras, the development of the chakras, how this energy goes up and how various energy centers, which are actually the equivalents of the adrenal glands, how do they work? How can you balance the chakras and live a balanced life? Then we can transform others as well in the same way. But all the work begins from me. It's not in the world outside. It has to begin from me. Gandhi just said, let there be peace in the world and let it begin with me. I am saying the same thing. Let there be love in the world and let it begin with me. And that can only come from a Mercury space within me, which is centered, which is balanced, and a balanced outlook on life. Meditation gives you exactly that. So Your mind is like a blackboard during the morning and everything, let us say, until 12, by 12 o'clock, is so many thoughts have come and you have done so much, it's like a blackboard totally filled up. What can you write on such a blackboard in the afternoon? How could you be really productive in your job? If you had learned to meditate, center yourself, your mind is now clear to put in the new message. Now you'll be a lot more productive for your office. Your meditation will become a boon to the office. And this culture has to spread. And only the Indian teachers have done it. Now the Western teachers want to know about it as well. So you and I, all the think tank has to also look to seeing how India can coach. Maharishi's vision was to coach 1,000 top meditators and send them around the world. He says, I will bring peace in the world through these 1,000 people. And this movement has to start.
But the TM movement is doing some outstanding work in this country.
It's not only TM movement.
Yeah,
as
I'm talking
you know,
meditation as a
there
practice.
are other teachers.
There are other
from
teachers. I'm saying TM. Right.
Sri Sri was a disciple of Maharishi. Rishi Prabhakar was a disciple of Maharishi.
Correct.
Deepak Chopra is a disciple of Maharishi.
What I'm saying,
doing the work
when I say Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, he's no more.
Exactly.
But the movement is on.
It's on, very much on, active,
and there are
alive.
many people who are doing this. You know,
correct.
like Vikram Yoga,
whatever
is there.
Yes.
Call it by any name. These practices have been brought already to the world around us. Now it has to be more channeled, more channeled, more focused, and it has to be, because remember one thing. There is a famous 80-20 rule as well.
Yes.
Right. Keeping that 80-20 rule, now come to the practical part of it.
Yes.
When the rubber hits the road.
Yes.
The famous words that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So when we do the change in myself, but I'm continuously in the surrounding, which is so damn imperfect, then you say, to hell with it. Gandhi's principle that if somebody slaps you, give your other cheek, is a great principle.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. Mm-hmm. But like Professor Moriarty says in Games of Shadow in Sherlock Holmes movie, that human mind is so much full of conflict and domination of others. All that you need is what you are supplying, bullets or bandages.
Yes.
We live in a remarkably imperfect world. There was only one Ramaraj.
Mm-hmm.
There was one Sri Ravi. There was one Maharishi Mahesh Yogi. There was one called the leaders. There was one Krishna.
Yes.
The question is, there is one Narendra Modi.
Yes.
I'm not equating Narendra Modi with any of these, but I'm saying that here what we see in that man is the element of embracing the practicality to the spiritual elements that come in. So, like the definition of Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. And I think today, as I see the world around me, I think many political leaders want to be like Modi.
Yes.
They want to see that how did this man win a second term with increased vote share and increased seats in a country as complicated as India. Where there is a crisscross of language, culture, food, every difference that exists. And you have people shooting at you, right? Calling you from Maut ka Saudagar to Chor. Everything. He survived. I think he should run, in my opinion, Modi must set up Modi School of Political Economy to teach global leaders, how to practice what you preach. My question here is that majority of the time, the self-improvement things remain self. Like you are doing the work in corporations. But unless and until entities change, how do we do that? Your thoughts?
Take the same 80-20 rule. It says that the vital few is lot more important than the trivial many. In fact, Maharishi said, so long as the cube root of the world's population has been transformed, it will automatically spread to the rest of the population of the world. This is exactly what could happen in India. The cube root of India's population, if they are transformed, they are owning up to creating their own future. India has to be transformed to the new India.
How will that happen? The reason is...
That is the very law of the 80-20 rule.
The point which I'm trying to make is, in my efforts when I go to India to do business or whatever, people will always say, I don't know how if you have been very successful in India or otherwise.
Yes.
The world accepts change. We Indians, we know everything. We don't need to be taught anything.
Yes.
हम सब जानते हैं.
Uh-huh.
That is the classic
that
bemoan in India that I have heard.
Yes, yes.
That we know everything, we don't need to be told by a Western to tell me what to do.
Yes.
How do we challenge that part? Because learning, though it is a continuous process, so I have a learning chart, the beginning to the master.
Yes,
So there are 5 stages of learning.
yes,
And each stage becomes more difficult than the previous stage
Yes.
because it takes that much time to become better
Right.
than it is.
yes.
And normally, 80% people live life just because
Unawareness.
as an indentured servitude.
Right.
Because I'm alive, I have to work, I have to bring money
Right,
home, I have to have
right.
children to feed.
Right, right.
So we do it as a routine, as a chore, but not as a higher purpose.
Yes.
So that is a very important element that we need to address. When you said about think tank, tell us about any particular thing that comes to your mind that happened in a particular corporation without naming them.
Yes.
That was aha moment for the rest of the company. We have a minute to close.
Yes. So without giving the name of this corporation, this corporation actually took the approach of working with the community, reaching out to community, doing the best for the community. And they went as far as donating $1 million within 1 week of any catastrophe around the world, right in the hands of the people at the place where it is needed, not through a third man. And guess, lo and behold, their stocks went up. This principle was already also enunciated by Dalai Lama. You talked about the banks.
Right.
Let me bring that to a close as well. There was a big think tank of the banks where we should go in our change our thinking, in our planning and materializing for the next 20 years. Guess who chaired that event? Dalai Lama. What does Dalai Lama to do with the think tank of banks? So he said, Dalai Lama said, the whole methodology of competition and all this survival of the fittest and all of this, and that was part of Darwin's theory of evolution. But nobody read the last chapter of Darwin's theory of evolution. Darwin said, I see in the future an emerging of a new man, more evolved man than the man today. Nature has not stopped evolving.
Right.
Nature is moving us forward.
Right.
The bioenergy in me is moving me further forward, me
Right.
moving you, moving every one of you.
Right.
So it is doing that, and so long as the empathy, the compassion and kindness will grow in the world will survive. In fact, even cautioned saying if it does not happen, we could commit a global suicide, and that's what they did by creating nuclear bombs and everything else.
Right.
That's a passé, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we need to create our world new the way we see it, removed from this past of where we have come from, and does not need humanity will need another 1,000 years of evolution, no, or maybe 10,000 years of evolution. I suggest an inward revolution to bring about such a humanity of kindness, compassion, and empathy.
Kindness,
as Charles Darwin said.
kindness, empathy, and
Compassion.
compassion. With these 3 words, let's try to practice that. All right? So, like every single program, we have a time constraint. I enjoyed this conversation with Raju, and I hope you did too. And I hope you benefited from this. So thank you, Raju, for joining us today. With these words, I want to thank you, audience, for watching the show. Have a great weekend and have a great week ahead.